Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to quickly review diction and imagery. Diction in its simplest form is just word choice. And we really need to pay attention to diction because it's really the words of the piece that provide meaning. And by analyzing the writer's use of words, we can gain a better understanding of what really the intended message is. And let's look at two sample sentences and really look at the diction used. The first sentence is, "He tenderly cut the succulent steak." Now compare that to the second sentence, "He ravenously tore at the fresh cooked flesh." Now notice how the inclusion of certain words and changing of certain words really affects the tone of the piece. The first one, he tenderly cut the succulent steak. Now the adverb tenderly has a very positive connotation, almost like it's dainty. Cut is a verb is oftentimes not negative. It's just kind of a simple fact. It's not an emotionally charged word. And succulent steak has a very appealing quality to it as well. That's going to kind of entice the readers. Unless you're a vegetarian, it perhaps will be mouthwatering. Now compare that to the second sentence. He ravenously tore at the fresh cooked flesh. The adverb ravenously already has a negative connotation. The verb tore seems very violent, so already changing the tone considerably from the first sentence. The phrase fresh cooked flesh, essentially flesh instead of steak, gives it a extremely horrifying quality because flesh is, one, ambiguous. We don't even know where the flesh came from. Whereas steak, we could probably assume it's from a cow of some sort. Again, I apologize to the vegetarians for that sentence. I want to look at another example from J.D. Salinger's brilliant classic work, The Catcher in the Rye. In this, the narrator Holden Caulfield reminisces about his brother. He says, "My brother Allie had this left-handed fielder's mitt. He was left-handed. The thing that was descriptive about it, though, was that he had poems written all over the fingers, in the pocket, and everywhere, in green ink. He wrote them on it so that he'd have something to read when he was in the field and nobody was up at bat. He's dead now." Now, if you notice, if you're looking at the diction, we have verbs like had, was, some more was, wrote. All the verbs are in the past tense. And then we go all the way down to that last sentence. He's, the contraction for he is, dead now, which make it present tense. And by just looking at that one word, it really lets us know what's going on in the narrator's head, that this is an ongoing problem, that this narrator, and rightly so, has not recovered from his brother's unfortunate death. And this idea that sometimes these tragic events and very unfortunate events can stay with us. And Salinger somehow brilliantly conveys this just in that one simple little word, he's. Imagery, which you probably have heard before, is just visually descriptive language that's going to appeal to one of the reader's senses, either sight, smell, taste, sound, touch, anything. You can look at some of these examples. They're pretty simple. I think I pulled this image just off a Google account. Let's look at some of the images that we see in an excerpt from The Most Dangerous Game, which apparently I forgot the quotation marks around the word most. Oops. So anyway, the passage reads, "He leapt upon the rail and balanced himself there to get greater elevation. His pipe, striking a rope, was knocked from his mouth. He lunged for it, A short, hoarse cry came from his lips as he realized he had reached too far and had lost his balance. The cry was pinched off short as the blood-warm waters of the Caribbean Sea closed over his head." Well, not only is that a terrifying passage, it also has some great imagery in it. First of all, let's look at the word lunge. He lunged for it. It's certainly a more evocative word than he reached for it. He grabbed at it. Lunging implies much more movement and almost a desperation behind it. The voice is a short, hoarse cry instead of this long wailing cry. If this writer would have said a cry came from his lips, I don't know that the reader would really be in the moment, in the way that phrases like a short, hoarse cry allow us to be in that moment. Often you can look at, the cry was pinched off short as the blood-warm waters of the Caribbean Sea closed over his head. The description of blood-warm not only appeals to our sense of touch, but we can also go back to the diction, blood-warm, the idea of the blood-warm, and considering how dangerous this quote is, it almost connects thematically as well. The last one I want to look at is from John Knowles, A Separate Piece. which is a story about two friends named Gene and Phineas. And Gene, very jealous of Phineas, hurts him one day, and he's thinking back about Phineas and really feeling regret for what he had done. Because as I had to do whenever I glimpsed at the river, I thought of Phineas. Phineas in exultation, balancing on one foot on the prow of a canoe like a river god, his raised arms invoking the air to support him, face transfigured, body a complex set of balances and compensations, his skin glowing from immersions, his whole body hanging between the river and sky as though he had transcended gravity, encompassing all the glory of the summer and offering it to the sky. Now, if you really look at the images in this, we have these images of like his whole body hanging between the river and sky. So we're appealing to our sense of sight, but it also gives this character an almost magical feel too. Later, we see phrases like his skin glowing from immersions. So again, appealing to our sense of sight, but it gives this character this almost angelic appearance, as though they're somehow like superhuman, if nothing else, that their skin would glow and give them a sense of greatness and shine. And it's really that these particular words and the images that they evoke are oftentimes what give meaning to the text. We always have to read critically and carefully, and don't forget to pay attention to the details. And I'm pretty sure I mispronounced some of these words when I was reading. I'm sorry, I'm doing this very quickly. I hope you guys are having a nice day. So long.